Is it possible that Chris Evans, Captain America in the movies, is a victim of emotional incest? Let's explore that today. Hang on. In this video, Chris Evans is describing to Seth some of his childhood experiences. You get some brief insight into what his childhood was like in relation to his mother. And
we're very similar this way. You're very close with your mother.
Yeah.
I'm very close with mine. I will say we diverge slightly because I heard this story. Is this true that you told your mom when you lost your virginity?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
So
I did. My whole family is just, we're very open with a lot of things. If I had, parties in high school, half the parties upstairs talking to her about, inappropriate things.
as I watched it, I thought, that sounds like emotional incest right there.
What were you at 10?
Crying, probably.
Yeah.
I cried a lot. I really did.
Really?
I was
only out of sadness, or were you a joy? Are you a joyful cry?
wish. No, it was out of true panic. I cried first day of school. I cried first day of camp. Truly, up until, honestly, if I'm being honest, maybe like fourth grade. I think it was the first year I remember.
Summer,
I'm not joking. I remember being proud of myself, getting on the bus, being like, I made it.
summer camp, that sleepaway camp?
Summer camp was a nightmare. No, it was day camp. I feel like I was 8 or 9, and
Yeah.
even going to day camp, we had a sliding door van. I felt like a cat getting in a bathtub. Like, no. And my mother, at least 2 years in a row, we wasted money on camp. But my mom would just be like, fine, I guess we're going home. Parents both achieved. Somehow, they felt like my friends.
Because what Chris Evans was describing was a lot of fear, emotionality, not being sure of himself, a mother who seems to have a little too much interest in his life, him sharing a little too much information with his mother and vice versa, and a lot of issues around his mother. So I rewatched it and I thought, this sounds even more like emotional incest as I got some more details the second time around. And I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I'm making a video about it because it's a topic that I don't think is discussed quite enough. It's a covert child abuse. It's hidden. It's not something you readily see, like the scarring or the black and blue marks from somebody being physically beaten, or somebody taking a video which is proof of a parent, let's say, screaming at them on a daily basis and saying, aha, there it is. There's the verbal abuse I had to put up with for years, or sexual abuse where there's telltale physical signs left. With covert emotional incest, with anything that's hidden like that, it's harder to prove. It's more dismissed then, and so therefore it doesn't get talked about a lot or enough, even though it impacts millions of children's lives. So with Chris Evans in the video, he's talking about how he cried all the time, all the way up until he was around 10 years old. He said around 4th grade, so that could be age 9 or 10. He made it sound like he cried at the drop of a hat. Cried before going to school, about having to take the bus to go to school. But then I thought maybe he's sort of joking a little bit. But no, he says the words, I was in a panic. So he's letting the audience know this was a big deal to him. He was terrified. And he also talks about crying when he went away to day camp. Not even overnight camp, but just day camp. And he was terrified. And what I thought was interesting is that he said his mom would say, okay, I guess this is not going to work. Let's just go back home. And that's a sign of emotional incest in terms of the parent not guiding the child, talking about the feelings, looking at it, and helping them take the steps forward to realize they can conquer their fears, or at least work with the fear. They don't just have to go home and give up and hide. And also back to the crying, that's interesting in terms of the persistent quality of it, the ongoingness of it all the way up until age 10, he said. Because that suggests a kid who's scared and terrified and hasn't been helped to find his own way, which suggests then perhaps some emotional smothering coming on from a parent. He refers to his mother a lot, so I'm assuming it's from the mother. And when a kid is always taken care of, so to speak, when the parent is just doing everything for them and answering all their needs, which is what happens with emotional incest, then the child begins to rely on that. And they often don't develop a good, strong self-identity where they feel that they can do things and accomplish things in their life because they're so used to being pampered by the parent. And again, that's often because the parent wants another spouse because their marriage is going to hell. So they emotionally smother one of their own children. And an outcome of that is a child who cries all the time up until age 10. Another thing I found interesting is that he tells Seth Meyer that he told his mom immediately once he got home the day that he lost his virginity. And he makes a comment that this kind of information was readily shared in his family, or at least we could say between him and his mom for sure. And then when you say something like that this information is readily shared, you kind of wonder if the parent is not oversharing and relying on the child to tell them all their adult problems. And then the child begins to think that that's normal because it's normalized for them. After all, their only role model, their parent, is doing it to them. And so sometimes as a result of that, the child will overshare with the parent because they're not aware of what a healthy boundary is, because the parent has removed that boundary. So no, it's not necessarily wrong to tell your parent that you've had sex for the first time and you lost your virginity. That's fine if you want to bring it up. And if you have parents that can have a conversation about that in terms of the implications of what that means, that's great. But the way he describes it in the video, it seems almost like he felt compelled to tell his mother. That he says, we share all this type of information. So it kind of makes you wonder. And he even uses the term inappropriate things. I told my mom inappropriate things, which again suggests the blurring of boundaries. Where did he learn how to do that? Well, one of the signs of emotional incest is the parent in the unloading onto the child, almost like verbal diarrhea. They get used to hearing inappropriate things. They could hear details about the sex life between the two parents, which a kid doesn't need to hear because that's going to be very confusing to them. But that is one of the top signs of being a victim of emotional incest. Also, he says his mom felt more like a friend, which is kind of interesting too with that. It's okay for a parent to perhaps be friendly to a child, but that's different from being a friend. Being a friend means you're somewhat on the same level, and that's not what that relationship is all about, nor should it be. A parent is one who guides, leads, supports, shows lots of love, but they're the adult and they're the ones leading. And that feels wonderful to a child because healthy boundaries are in place. A child is crying out sometimes for restrictions, rules. It's because they're young and they don't get any of that. So you see kids who are raised with perhaps no boundaries, are left on their own, don't have a healthy parent guiding them. They feel neglected and abandoned, and oftentimes they act out in all kinds of wild ways because they're continually testing the limits because no parent is putting any healthy limits in place. So because on an unconscious level, they're upset about that, they're confused about that, then by God, they're gonna test the limits almost to see if the parent really loves them. Like, does my mom or dad care about me enough to put things in place that help shape me and mold me and turn me into a young adult? They may see these things in their friend's family or on TV or in a movie or something, see this role modeled in other ways, healthy behavior, and then realize it's not happening at home. They're very confused about it, so they're gonna find ways to push the limit to see, what's this all about? Do my parents love me enough, care about me enough to tell me no? So a lot to think about here, and I found it very interesting that Captain America, who portrays strength and determination, that's the images or thought process that will come up with that. The actor who portrayed that was actually a scared little boy who cried almost every day up until he was about 10 years old. So there again, appearance versus reality. When we peer a little more deeply, we see what the actor, Chris Evans, is all about. And how wonderful of him to be authentic and honest on national TV and not try to hide or cover up any of this. He was very honest about it, and I give him many kudos for that. So something to think about here. Let me know your thoughts if you have any input. I'll have the video linked up below for you. You can check it out if you want. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.